See, I know what it's like to be paralyzed, not once, but 6 times, right? That's another whole story we get into, but I know my God. I know his ability, what he wants for me. I've had 60 grand mal seizures. I've had cancer twice, right? I've had a lot of things that would limit a lot of people. And when you don't have hope anymore, wow, that's a hard place to be.
Hi, Discover Church family. We are riding on the Trump effect, the big wave of the MAHA movement. It's called Make America Healthy Again. And it's my pleasure to introduce you to someone that was introduced by me as the smartest doctor he's ever met. And this was Dr. Dan Fouts who said this about you, Dr. Ben Bowers. Have you met Dr. Dan?
Yes, I have.
Okay, well, he told me as a researcher, he's been in health. He's been researching innovation. He speaks all around the world and gets paid for, what he does. And he told me personally that he considers you the smartest doctor alive. What got you this acclaim?
Well, I think it's God. He's the one that's taught me, as far as I'm concerned. I'm just a hungry guy trying to understand what God created and how to use it and how to help patients or clients. And that's, I guess the way I describe it, Pastor Steve, I'm a sponge. I just soak stuff up. I just dive and dive and dig and dig. And it's like, okay, but what's next? What's next? And the essence of trying to get to the bottom of the core of something, that's kind of my nature. It's what God put within me. I've always been an inquisitive doctor. Right? Dive deep.
Wow. So this is not one of those YouTube videos where you want to swipe after 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I promise you, we're going to tackle the big issues and the big questions because I know what you asked me, from the serious stuff to kind of some of the frivolous stuff about health. We're going to cover health with the smartest guy. Now, when we say smart, I want to quantify this. A genius has an IQ of 140 or above. There was this social post going around that this Korean young man, his name is Young Hoon, a 46-year-old Protestant Christian, is the world record holder in IQ tests. He scored 276. Again, a genius is 140. Would it be too much pressure to put on you and ask, what is your IQ, Dr. Ben Bowers?
My last testing was 204.
Okay, so you are clearly the smartest man that I have interviewed, and I am curious to know, you're one of the smartest researchers, doctors. What innovation in functional medicine, natural health, what innovation excites you right now? What have you come across and how?
When you look at what bitter acids do and how they affect the body, specifically the vagus nerve, which is one of the cranial nerves that affects over 1,100 systems of the body.
Wait, say that again. 1,100 systems.
1,100 different systems and communicating points. It's like the master communicator. Wow. It's what connects the brain to the body, the way I try to describe that to people. We get a disconnect between our body and our brain sometimes. And it's think about this. If someone constantly screams at you on the phone, you're going to quit answering the phone. That's kind of what happens in the vagus system. So when the body has all these problems and the stream of the brain just kind of disconnects it, says, turn that switch off. And that's what the vagus system is. It's the master switch of all things in the body. And if you can turn that on, you can see what's wrong. If you can't, you don't see what's wrong.
I can already hear the skepticism, because when one thing in the body touches over 1,000 different systems, when you fix that or help that, it's going to affect so many things that most people will be like, it's snake oil. I can't even believe something like mature barley hop extract that's been stabilized and concentrated, that it could do so many things. So, what do you say to people who are skeptical and they look down upon what you're about to tell them? When you know an innovation, it means that you're way ahead of others, and even very well-educated people are going to look at you like, how can that possibly be?
There's part of my story is when I first heard about this, I said that very thing. Yeah, it's snake oil. I've used hops for 20 years. I've never seen it do what this was. Because the other thing is, I was on my drive home and just praying and talking to God about it. Holy Spirit said, I want you to go and research this. And I thought, why? Yeah, it's not there. No, we didn't understand the alpha, the beta, and the gamma acids at that time. right? We didn't understand what they did. We didn't understand how you could split things out of that hops extract and the mature hops extract and look at just the bitter acid size. Most research had looked at only the what's called the phenolenic side, which is it's a huge side of that product. But they were ignoring the bitter acids because we didn't know that they were that important.
Who was it that introduced you to this, and what did you say to them when they first told you?
One of my lifelong friends, been friends for 50 years, a good buddy from high school, and we've done a lot of stuff over the years, just families and all that. He called me up and said, "Hey, I got something I need you to look at." And I go, "Yeah, I've been there, done that. I'm not interested. I'm about to retire from practice, actual practicing, and just do all my research." And he said, "No, we've been friends for years." I said, "Don't pull out your friend card either." So then he said, "Hey, you've been treating my wife. She has a pretty rare condition and a lot of stuff going on. Would you at least look at it for her?" Man, that worked, right? So I went to this meeting. Uh, uh, Pastor Steve, I sat there with eyes crossed, arms crossed, legs crossed, everything I could because I thought, this is snake oil. I've seen these things. And that was the thing that kind of got me. And when I left, I was just going to call my friend and go, "Yeah, I don't think so." I was going to be polite, but Holy Spirit had a different answer for me.
I think that's an important thing. Hearing God brings the answers. There's so many people listening to us who have conditions they've given up on. They think there's no cure, not prayed, nothing's happened. Every time you pray, I believe God answers, but you got to listen, So you said you were in your car, your mind was all set like concrete, I would say,
Yes.
And what was the voice that came in your heart?
Well, for me, in my language, my Holy Spirit is Holy Spirit said, "I'd like for you to go home and research." Because I got ready to call my friend. He said, "Please don't do that." I go, "Okay, why?" He said, "Well, I want you to go home and research this." And I'm going, I thought we had this agreement. I wouldn't do these things and you wouldn't help me do them. He said, "That's not my agreement." So I said, "Okay, Lord, what am I supposed to go home and research?" He said, "Go home and find the original research that they reference, and you'll see what I want you to do." Let me say something else, because you just mentioned something about people having conditions. See, I know what it's like to be paralyzed, not once, but 6 times, right? That's another whole story we get into, but I know my God. I know his ability, what he wants for me. I've had 60 grand mal seizures. I've had cancer twice, right? I've had a lot of things that would limit a lot of people. And when you don't have hope anymore, wow, that's a hard place to be. And our God, for me, wants to get in there and show you, no, I am here. I'll never leave you. I'm always with you. I am going to walk with you all the way through this. And when I tell people, I was paralyzed for 5 years and I had a miraculous recovery. It just took 5 years for it to happen. And I had to seek out all these different professionals around the world. And God did his job, right? Because I did my job. I got aligned with him. I said, "Lord, in our intimate relationship, my job is to get as close to you as I can, to learn you, study you, understand you, and live the life that you've designed for me. And Lord, if you've designed me to be paralyzed the rest of my life, I'll do that." And here's why that's critical to understand. I was with my brother when he was 14 years of age and broke his neck and was paralyzed the rest of his life. One of the longest living paralytics in the world with that type of condition. He lived 42 years before he passed away at 55 years of age, right? And I saw that. I said, my Lord, I don't believe you want me to go through that like my brother went through that. And he didn't, but I had to be willing to just submit to that and say, whatever your will is, that's what I'm here for. And so that's my relationship. So when he said, go home and study it, okay, there's a reason he wants me to study it. And I found the original research back in the 50s and the 40s, and I dug into all the new research and found where they were finding more and more things. I found where this new company had actually gone in, this pharmaceutical company, this drug company, had gone in and spent all this time, 5 years, trying to understand that, and they actually got it out where nobody had ever gotten it out that way before. And
so when you're talking about, if we can just kind of draw back a few steps so that people can catch up. I know your mind is racing faster than most of ours. There is 70, 80 years, what I'm hearing, of years of research on a simple thing called the mature hops extract.
Mature hops.
And they've found something that's new. I mean, like, what's new? That's always been around. People will write to me and say, Pastor Steele, I'll just go Amazon it. Thanks a lot. What's the difference between this thing that you've discovered and now are recommending and telling Christians about it? And, it may, look, people are watching, may not be for you, okay, but listen with an open heart ask God, right? If you're asking God for some help, don't just brush off new knowledge like you know it. Be humble, like Dr. Ben says. So I know Americans, everybody's going to say, I just go on Amazon and figure it out myself. Everyone wants to go around, they think they know better than a doctor. So what do you say is different about this?
Well, first of all, most of the hop supplementation out there does not have any of the bitter acids in there, or if they do, it's only the alpha beta. I'm excuse me, the alpha bitter acid, which is very minimal, right? It's not going to do everything that the beta and the gamma are going to be able to do as well. Now, I want to caution you to say this because when you research the gamma, you realize back in about 2013, I believe it was, they recategorized it. So we really dive into there's three substrates of the alpha and the beta gamma acids, right? So there's 6 total that are in there. And they are so unique and they cost so much money to extract them that they're not in of any significance in any type of supplementation that's out there. They're not even in the professional supplementations that we use that I've used for 15 to 20 years for clients and patients all around, right? So when you look at all these bitter acids, it cost in 1950s, it cost $1 million a gallon. Think about that term, that money, to pull those bitter acids out. It was too cost prohibitive. So what after Prohibition, when there's a lot of alcohol going on, they were noticing that about a third of the people that drank a lot of alcohol actually were losing weight, and about 2/3 of them were gaining weight. Well, Anheuser-Busch was one of the original companies that did this. They said, hey, we don't want to become our drink to become known as a fat person's drink, right? So they initiated some of the research prior to World War II in the early 40s. All right, then it stopped. Then after World War II, they came back and then they finished up. And they found they thought it was something in the beer. And what they identified was the bitter or the hops, or the mature hops that they had. And they isolated it down to the bitter acids. That's what cost them $1 million a gallon to get pulled out. Well, you got to remember back in 1953, there's less than 1% of Americans were obese. Now, there's a lot of people that are in the overweight phase, but we didn't have all these categories yet. So they just closed it up. Well, fast forward in August of 2024, the latest research revealed that 78.9% of North Americans are in one of 4 stages of obesity, overweight to obese 1, stage 2, and 3, right? And then in November, they came out with a 5th stage that is more than 50% of the BMI. And that means that overweightness is going to kill them. So if you look at 7 or 8 out of 10 people that are dealing with from being overweight to one of 3 stages of obesity, now's the time. You talked about the Maha. Now's the time when we go, this is my personal feeling. I think God allowed this to come out now because now it's beneficial. In 53, it wasn't that beneficial to people because there wasn't that many people having the problem. Now's the time. And so that's just my own personal belief that I feel like God said, okay, it's time to bring this out. But Pharmazetica was the company down in Mississippi that spent 5 years and $8 million trying to find a way to get this out, these bitter acids out, in a marketable way that could be very beneficial. The problem they had is they're a drug company. This is a nutraceutical. Whenever they tried to change it into a drug, it was unstable. Wouldn't work. So they released it as a nutraceutical that's never been in the world before. And that's the uniqueness of what this product is. Nobody else has it. So you don't compare this anything else because it's not there.
Yeah, I think you've answered that very well. And I love the fact that you said timing, timing is everything with God. So they knew about it back in 1953,
Correct.
But they couldn't extract it because the people really didn't need it so much. People were still lean. As food changed, things changed. God in his mercy allowed us to have this discovery. And it's not something that you can just get on Amazon, okay? So if you want to look at it, we have a link of many testimonies and things like that at vegaslife.com, because it's really about the vagal system. Tell us now, what is the vagal system and why did it get shut off? Like people ask me, why do I need to turn it on? Why do we need to activate it? Like a lot of people, they do cold plunges, they activate it, it starts burning fat, they're losing fat, and they get healthy, their mind is alert. But what caused the shutdown to begin with?
Great question, Pastor Stephen. For me, when I look at the vagal nerve and the vagus system, vagal nerve is cranial nerve 10 of the 12 cranial nerves. And it's so critical that it's directly in the brain itself, but it's connecting the brain and the body together. So when we talk about it goes out and it communicates to all these things. Oh, by the way, 500 of them are just in the alimentary canal, the digestive canal. And why is that critical? Because 80 to 85% of what you need for life, you are swallowing, right? So all these systems have to know what's in there so it can know how to utilize it, how to break it down, how to process it. That's what's unique about the vagal nerve or the vagal system. And when you have different conditions that are screaming at the brain, we say it just kind of disconnects it, just unplugs that system, these 1,100 different things. I like how Byron Strong talks about it. He says it's almost like a Christmas tree light. A few bulbs go out, and all of a sudden, a lot of pathways start going down. And that's kind of, it's really unique in that aspect because when the body no longer wants to pay attention or the brain no longer wants to pay attention to the body becomes disarray. And I give this example to a lot of people. We talk about out of 103 different neoplasms in the body that produce over 226 different cancers of the body.
Okay, what's a neoplasm?
A neoplasm means it's a new growth that's abnormal. So we say that's 3 cancer cells.
Yes.
Now, real quick, like you have 2 types of cancer in this sense. You have the benign, which means it won't kill you. It'll just cause a lot of irritations and dysfunctions. And then you have the metastatic that will eventually take your life. Well, here's what we know. 99 of the 103 take more than 15 to 20 years to develop. So here's a question I've always asked. Why is the body ignoring it? Why doesn't it see what it is? If the immune system's job is to identify erratic protein to protein bonds, meaning that's what produces these different cancer cells, please, all right, why doesn't it see it? Why doesn't it bring it into the ability to kill it off? And a lot of systems involved in that. But I always tell people if you've got some type of autoimmune condition, some type of precancer condition, that part has been disconnected from the brain because the brain knew it was developing something, or the body, something was developing something in the body was going to kill it. It wanted to go get rid of it. But that system's turned off. They can't see it. It's not there. Now, genetically, we go in, for example, let's talk about a parasite, just for example. Freaks some people out, but there's all these different types of parasites or protozoas. Protozoas are small enough to ride in water or on air, right? And so you have to have what's called a DARC gene to actually identify those protein bonds of parasites. Some people don't have that gene or it's turned off. The parasites come in, they do whatever they want.
So are you saying that the Phix can even affect parasites?
Yes.
Phix is Phix.
Correct.
All right, this product that's at vegaslife.com. Say again, how can it affect cancer and parasites?
It's going to go identify the system that's dysfunctional, give it the energy or supply energy to go help fight it, and then take the raw material that you need to rebuild that system. Go shut it down. I mean, we've seen some what I call near miraculous results of people on this product that just, it's almost mind-boggling to think that it took that simple thing to turn that system on. And all of a sudden, this body's getting phenomenal. Phenomenal result.
So if somebody has cancer, it's going to help them?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Okay. What about if somebody has a heart condition, a cardiovascular problem? What's going on and how does this affect it?
Okay, so first thing you got to understand, we're talking about an organ that pumps 100 to 140,000 times a day, right? It's got to move blood through 53,000 square miles in the body. It's got to take energy all the way around. So when the heart starts becoming dysfunctional, you have to stop and ask, what's the problem, right? First of all, think if the heart is a mechanical pump. It's having to push things through the system. The thicker the blood is, the harder it works, the more it wears it out, right? Now, you also got to remember it's the blood that supplies the heart itself, is that it's actually got dysfunctional blood that's in that. So the first thing we go look at is if we can break down what's called the chylomicronecrosis, which is the smallest fat drop that's in the blood that becomes rancid that causes problems. If this breaks that down and cleans that up, now we're reducing the demand load on the blood, demand load on the heart. Heart can pump easier, and it's easier to get things to go around. Same thing in the kidneys, same thing in the liver, same thing in the lungs. These are all responsible. That affects nitric oxide. Just a lot of things that starts affecting Pastor Steve that help relieve that pressure. That's what it's really doing.
So this product that really came out, discovered, I believe, by Christians, right? A Christian put patents on this. It's proprietary. It was actually like known or it was kind of marketed as a fat burning mature hops extract, but it
Correct.
turns out it's actually affecting cancer, heart disease. What about diabetes?
Oh, most definitely. A drug company, to get a drug approved, they got to find one single thing all the way down that it does to get FDA approval. That's what this drug company was trying to do. When I looked at the research, I said they're bypassing so many things to get to that one. Let me reverse engineer it and watch what it does. So when I came back and started looking at all the things it was actually repairing, it was more than just trying to burn fat. It was burning specific types of fat that were inflammatory and derogatory or become toxic that was causing a multitude of different things in the body. And so when we let all that clean up, all of a sudden the body started getting back to its God-given ability to repair and regenerate the damage that had been done.
I think that's a very, very easy way to explain, okay, for those who are not so scientific. If you just clean the junk out of your body, most of which is going to be in visceral fat,
Correct.
you're automatically going to help the body to start repairing and healing itself. Then we don't have to talk about specific, effects like a specific medication or drug, attacks or attaches itself to. It's not targeting that. It's actually helping your whole body to get rid of the junk. But I know so many people fight diabetes, type 2 diabetes. They don't know what to do. They got monitors. I know a dear friend of mine, an elderly minister, and he just goes ouch every time the needle goes into him. But they got to do it like constantly to him and monitor him through almost like a phone app,
It is.
and then they inject themselves all the time. It just seems like a painful torture, not the way that God designed us to live. How can the mature hops extract, the way that Phix has been stabilized and concentrated, PHIX, how does this even relate to diabetes?
Well, so we look at what causes diabetes, right? Type 1, type 2, type 3. I think for me, the biggest portion is that when we have the wrong types of storage of fat, it actually produces more sugar-based components. And so the fatter a person becomes, actually the more sugar breakdown, what's called the gluconeogenesis pathway, glycogen breaks down. These things break down and they're trying to break it into an energy source. It's almost like it produces sugar, right? And so if you can go in and break that apart and get that broken down and flush that out of your body, number one. Number two, you could come into the hormone side, what's called the neuroendocrine side, and actually get it to regulate the body better, communicate the body better. We're seeing so many people reduce their medication. I want to make one real clear point here on something that you mentioned. Of all the testing that's been done on mature hops bitter acids, it has no synergistic effect to any drug, to any disease. Think about a cleanup crew. It just comes in and starts breaking down, as you said, the junk in the body, breaking it apart and getting it out of there. So the body can get back to its God-given natural ability to repair, regenerate health. One other key factor, there's a thing called pluripotentiation stem cells. They're in the gut, specifically the small intestine. And research is indicating that it tends to actually return them back on and regenerate all the different kinds of cells that your body needs to repair itself. Once the junk's cleaned out, once the fire's out, once the war's over, now the body will start repairing and regenerating that. That's going to take some time, but we're seeing some pretty dynamic effects on that at this point with that, Steve, and that's really exciting.
Let's go through some questions that people have about taking this Phix. If people are thin already, I've actually noticed this. I kind of have the answer to this. If they're thin already, can they take it?
Yes. There's a thing that we call thin outside, fat inside, TOFI, right? And that visceral fat. In fact, if you really watch the stats, most thin people die easier or faster than fat or obese people because there's no fuel left. And when the rancid fat around your organs becomes bad, now you got some pretty serious things going on. So I tell people all the time, take a small dose and just take this and let it clean all that fat up. Yes, they don't need to lose weight, but they need to clean the fat up out of their body, of the inside.
That's interesting. My mother is a very thin person, And I asked her just yesterday, I said, how's it going when you're using this? I recommend this to my own mother, so I don't know how else to tell people. People are like, you're a pastor, why are you talking about this? Because I'm treating you like my own family, right? I mean, I want you to be well in this, Maha age, okay? Make America healthy again. What a great trend we have. And she answered to me and she said, I feel better and I'm actually gaining weight. And I said, no way. The body
Yeah.
just optimizes.
But here's interesting because they're actually gaining muscle. That's the weight. When we look at what happens to the muscle, this intramuscular and intramuscular, two different types of fat in the muscle. As we're aging, the muscle, if you're not using it, it actually breaks down to what we call a mushy muscle, which is a fatty muscle. And what we're seeing this do, it goes in to cleans that fatty, mushy muscle back up. And now you got more muscle again. You got more strength again. And since muscle weighs more than fat, you actually gain weight, right?
Yeah. So this is where we're going to have to come to the next technology, Phit. We'll come to that in a second because most people listening are like, I don't want to gain weight. I want to lose weight. So there's another technology we'll talk about. I'm sorry to interrupt, doctor. Go ahead.
That's fine.
So what about people who, okay, so we know that the Phix will lower cortisol, lower stress, and lower blood pressure. So then I've got people saying, hey, wait a second, if I've got low blood pressure, can I take the Phix technology?
Yes, you can. Again, we have to go back to that causation of what's causing the low blood pressure. If there's too much viscosity in the blood, the body wants to slow everything down because you're wearing the heart out. And so it's actually going to reduce cardiac output. Now, we also have to look at breathing in your lungs. We also have to look at the kidney, all right, the process that goes through the glomeruli and figure that phase out. But I have seen so many people with very low blood pressure and actually cleans the blood up and it raises it back up to normal. People really high, same thing, it brings it back down. So it's just a great balancing aspect of what this does, Pastor Steve.
Wow. So it's a modulator. It's not it's not an activator or a suppressor.
It is an activator. Let me qualify that. It is an activator that activates specific systems. It's not a stimulant, right? Which is a completely different aspect of that. But as an active modulator, if something's too low, it's going to bring it up to what we call homeostasis balance. It's too high, it's going to bring it back down.
Well, that's a great nuance. I'm learning everything you say is teaching me something. I know a minister, and all these things are very personal to me because as a minister, I really deal with a lot of sick people. We pray for them, and then sometimes the Lord says, hey, you got to cut out the fat or the burgers or whatever you're doing, the diet Coke. Oh, God forbid, the Americans don't want to hear that at all. They think they're healthier taking the artificial sweeteners. I don't understand it. But look, I know a minister. He looks lean. He looks healthy. He travels like me. He's really famous. If I mention the name, everybody on the broadcast knows who he is. And I realize he's injecting himself, and I can't say the name of the product, but it's the GLP-1 inhibitors and activators. People inject themselves. And I asked him, why? Why would you do that? We're teaching about being healthy, going natural again. And he says, look, it just suppresses my appetite. And he's got, again, diabetes. He's got other problems, and he really needs to manage his appetite. And he looks slim, but he's pumping himself full of this stuff. And I just wonder, what would be the side effect long-term of injecting yourself like this? And would it be better just to go natural?
Well, that's an obvious answer for me, but yes. But so the primary thing we see with some of these different types of things you described is we're going to start causing a condition called gastroparesis, which means the stomach is going to stop working. It literally just makes all that stuff stop.
Can I call it like a paralysis of the intestine? That's what it is.
Of the stomach, not necessarily the intestine first, but just the stomach, because it actually it shuts the stomach off, so nothing goes through there. If you stop thinking about this, if you fill this tank up and you keep putting stuff in, you spill over. Well, that's why it's an appetite suppressant, but also that's a hormone regulatory issue. Leptin, all right, which is the satiety hormone, says, okay, you've eaten enough, stop. And if you keep going, you shut that switch off. It says, you're not listening to me, I'm just going to stop talking. Now you open up another hormone, it's called ghrelin, and ghrelin is what we call the expansive hormone. It says, you keep eating, I got to take all these buildings and start expanding 3 times their size, which is the abdocyte, the fat cells themselves, and that's why things get stored. Well, if it's around the viscera, right, now you no longer control the ability to measure your blood sugars or monitor your blood sugars in an appropriate way. And now we get massive amounts of insulin that's going on. And now you have these other CGMs that you have to wear that to check all your glucose. But the reason people want to do these type of GLP-1 activators, inhibitors, whichever they are, is because they want the quick fix. And I'm going to say this cautiously so we all hear this. We're going contrary to God's created being here. We're trying to take one thing, like let's take something that's a stimulant to give us a lot of energy. That's okay if you need that temporarily, momentarily, but not all the day, not all the time. So what we're seeing is not only do you get gastroparesis, now we start getting a form of pancreatitis. Now we shut off the muscles themselves, and now the muscles no longer work. And then we start seeing droopy conditions, whether it's eyes, whether it's heart, whether it's arms, whether it's whatever. And so when you look at all these factors, now we mess up the bowels, which is our excreted. And now our bowels are messing up. Then we mess up our urine. Then we mess up our breathing. Well, there's only 4 ways in and only 4 ways out. And if these are messing with all those systems, now the body is shutting down more things. And what we're finding now, because these have been around since 2017, so we have enough data now to see where all these systems start showing up. And so what the pharmaceutical company is trying to do, they're going, well, now I got to give you another drug to fix that, another drug to fix the other condition. And it's a multiple system that they've established that by 2035, they want all these people on at least 5 different drugs.
Right. Hey, doctor, you got me at droopy syndrome. When I heard that, I said, who wants to be droopy?
Well, it's eyes, ears, nose, chin, skin. I mean, yeah. Whole thing.
That's what it's doing. And you're not going to feel it the first 10 injections.
No.
So people want a quick fix. I'd rather go natural. I heard that this fix triggers the cold plunge effect for 9 hours. Where do we get that? Where do we get that from? Is that research?
So the research actually showed that the bitter acids have an effect on the parasympathetic sympathetic system, which is the part of the vagal nerve, the vagal system, for up to 9.5 hours. Here's another interesting thing, Pastor Steve, that just came out last February in research. They went back and re-looked at the effect of the bitter acids themselves. They found something very unique. They found this, look at this curve, that about 6 hours, it's at the top of the curve, and then starts shutting back down. What they did in the research, they said, well, let's put another dose right there and see what happens. And they saw that curve being go up higher. So the conclusion of that research basically said this: every time you go take a bitter acid, if you take a second dose in 6 to 7 hours, you actually amplify the effect instead of going back down and restarting again. So I came back in with my clients and patients, started doing that. And just so everybody understands, in my team of doctors, about 5 different doctors, we have monitored over 500 people on this product. And we have seen phenomenal things here. And you also got to understand, as physicians, we look at their blood, we look at their DNA, we look at their urine, we look at their saliva, and we look at their stool. So we've measured all these different people. And we took some of the toughest cases that we had and actually put this on there. And that's where we saw some of the miraculous results that were occurring. Now, not everybody's going to get it that quick. But if you can get the worst cases better quick, that's amazing.
Yeah. Let me put it in physical term what we're talking about. So Dr. Ben is saying, because people ask, how do I take it? How much do I take it? This one vial is 1.2 milliliter, this eye drop. Yeah, this eyedropper. So you're saying do that twice a day and do it within 6 hours of each other. It amplifies the effect. I have personally noticed that. Like, I'm fairly healthy, fairly thin. So I'm kind of a guinea pig. Like, what's it going to do for me? It burned off visceral fat. It burned off about 2 kilograms of visceral fat. I noticed that right away. The love handles disappeared. My wife noticed it, and she was the one that told me. And then I went to weigh myself. And I mean, in the beginning, I didn't believe it because I wasn't even looking to lose fat. That's like how passive I was about this. I just thought I'll try it for the sake of the viewers. And I noticed my mental clarity, my energy. I've been sleeping 4 hours a day, which, you don't want to recommend to people every day. You got to do your 8 hours sometimes. But I noticed as I traveled and my bottle drained away. And of course, my wife takes it. My daughter takes it. Everybody wants to take my supply. So then I went down to 1 and I used the travel pack. It's called a snap. So if you can see it, it's called Phix and it's a snap. It's a proprietary thing where if I bent this, liquid comes out in exact measure. It's like, it seems to me indestructible. That's probably wrong to say, but I put it through the washing machine to test it and it came back out normal. So it doesn't seem to crack or leak. So I travel with it and I have to go down to 1 dose. We shouldn't say the word dose because it's not medicine, but, one serving a day. And I totally noticed the difference. And I did not know the research that you told us. So this is the reason why we have twice a day, and we do what's called, in America, it's called auto ship. Like you auto ship it every month. Like if you're not fat anymore, would you recommend that you continue to take this? How long should you take this for?
Great question. So I'll answer this a little length, but let me give it to you short. Here's the thing I've done in tearing all the research apart. We found that about 60% of the people, it takes anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks before they see something noticeable.
Right.
Now, originally, when I looked at all this research, Pastor Steve, and I said, okay, as a functional medicine doc, as a epigeneticist, let me look and see what's happened. So I identified 27 different parts of the body to measure. I knew it wasn't going to be weight loss when I started somebody on this. So I wanted to measure the body because there are different things. I know different reasons we store, fat in our chest, fat in our gut, fat in our arms, fat in our legs, whatever. Even in the brain, people are like, what do you mean? How do you store fat in your brain? Well, your brain is fat. Right. So what is brain clot? What is dyscognitive abilities? What is all these different things that have? Well, if you get the glial cells, the astrocytes, and all these different cells agitate the brain actually starts shriveling. So if I can get rid of fat rancidity in the brain or rancid fats in the brain, will we get better thought process, better clarity? So all the different testing that we do, cognitive analysis that we do within our patients, we can actually watch their numbers go up the longer they're on this. So 8 to 12 weeks was kind of like 60% of the people before we actually saw some of those results. Now, how long should a person take it? Well, how long are you exposed to rancid foods or bad air, or environmental toxins, whatever it is? So if this turns on the communication points of the body and lets the body see what's wrong, I'm going to take it all the time, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story. Back in March, I go down to Florida twice a year. Spend a month down there in March, shoot my kids and grandkids. I end up getting some food poisoning. And in the course of that, I got really sick, really bad. I aspirated some food, got into my lungs, and all of a sudden, I end up with double pneumonia. And I'm laying there in bed praying to God, and I said, Lord, I do not need to end up in the hospital in Destin, Florida, right? Please, I'm asking for mercy. And the Holy Spirit said, Ben, remember this one research article that you did? I said, yes, I do. He said, what did it tell you to do? So, well, those bitter acids actually go fight that lung condition that I had called asthmatic enteritis that actually is producing the fluid. I got up, Pastor Steve, I took 2 doses. And I took 2 doses for every 4 hours, 20 doses in 38 hours. 95 to 97% of the double pneumonia went away. Now,
Wait,
that's
I've never heard that.
That's unique to me, right? Because I've done all the research and I said, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to go to the hospital, right? They're going to give me a bunch of drugs. They're going to put a bunch of stuff in there. They're going to do a lot of different things. That's man-made. What if I use what God made that I knew with the research that I had studied said it would do that? So since that time, I've been on 4 to 6 doses a day. I keep taking it. At my age, everything that's going on, all the things I've experienced, I want to keep turning those things off. I'm unique. People understand this is my story, and I'm not telling anybody else to do that. I'm just saying that what I have found on that research in February, excuse me, if you took a dose every 6 or 7 hours or took 3 doses a day, it's huge difference that I've been seeing on people. We have several hundred people doing that now. And just like your testimony, they can tell when they're on that it gives them that natural healing ability in their body.
Yeah. So the question really isn't how little can I take? It's can I take too much? And you're saying you can go up to 20 servings a day and it doesn't have any toxicity, any side effects.
Well, that was in 38 hours in 2 days. But yeah, I mean, the only side effect was I got well.
That's a good side effect.
Not allowed it to heal me.
That is an excellent side effect. One of the conditions I come across, and they're the saddest conditions to me, are any kind of neuropathy. Formerly healthy people, they're functioning well, and then suddenly they can't even walk properly anymore. And I want to give hope to these people. This has something, my understanding is it has something to do with this one major important nerve, the vagus nerve.
Correct.
But do we have any hope for people with neuropathy? And maybe you can name some of the different conditions. Is epilepsy involved in that? There's a bunch of other names I don't know. What have you come across?
Well, so let me qualify it here in a couple of ways. We probably have over 100 different people that have some form of diabetic neuropathy that we have seen massive improvement in. Now, here's what we got to keep in mind. We talk about the most common cause of peripheral neuropathy is a dysfunction in what's called axonal plasma. It's a nutrient of the nerve that comes all the way down. And so the longest nerves of the body all the way down to your feet, right? Second longest ones come down the arms. So when I look at that neuropathy and I look at the degradatory effect of that axonal plasma, the nutrient of that nerve, then the size or the sheath of the nerve, which are basically fat as well, right? And they're derogatory or they're actually dysfunctional. That's the problem. And what we're seeing over time, some of these will take 6 to 9 months to see some results. But as you repair that nerve and you repair the axonal plasma, the signal going down, it actually starts generating new nerves. And that's a pretty phenomenal thing. Pretty rare to see that happen outside the world, but with bitter acids, that is what we're seeing.
That's almost like the effects people are looking for when they pay huge amount of money for stem cells.
Correct. Remember, I said earlier, it affects stem cells as well.
I didn't know that. Wait, say that again.
So the pluripotentiation stem cells that are inside the small intestine, not the ones that are in your femur and your bone, right? Because that's where most of our blood is made. But when you look at these pluripotentiation stem cells inside the digestive path, it takes about 45 to 60 days to turn that on. It takes about 90 plus days to activate it. And then it can take anywhere from 90 to 120 days to process. So do that month, 5, 6, 7 months later. Now you're actually repairing the cells. You're building new ones is what we're really doing. Not repairing old, we're actually building the cell.
This is possibly a big answer to many people's prayers. I have been looking for something that is not invasive. You know, I know people want to sell like stem cells to me and other people. I know famous Christians who've taken it and it's like a hit and miss. You got to prep the body. It's not just like one injection. You got to go and prep the body. Then you got to take the stem cells from God knows where. And then you got to prep the body again after the effect. So it's laborious. You got to go to the lab for, a clinic for a week or two at least. And then you don't know if it's going to work. So I've been asking God, is there any way to get the stem cells out naturally? And what I just heard you say is you begin to see the effects after about 90 days. It's not something fast, but it's naturally you're ingesting this clear, odorless, tasteless liquid. And after 90 days, where was that part of the intestine again? You said a very long word. I didn't catch.
Small intestines in the jejunum section, the middle section of the small intestine, where that is.
And that produces stem cells.
Yeah. Just the thing the Holy Spirit just reminded me when you just held that up. What if that thing was full of poison? How much would that take to kill a person? Not
very little.
Yeah. And if that little substance that's in there, those bitter acids, could turn on what God created to start repairing and regenerate all this stuff, why would we doubt it? Right? Yeah. But yet we do. I'm a physician. I've been doing this for so long. I thought it can't be that simple. It can't be that easy. Yeah. If you use what God created, it's there. I've taught this and asked this for years. I go, if a scorpion poison will kill a man, why doesn't it kill the scorpion? It's in the body, right? Because God created it, that it produces if it doesn't kill itself. Well, the same thing to us. If we put the right stuff in there to heal us and repair us and quit killing us, as you mentioned earlier, all the different foods that people are eating and consuming, I call them Franken foods. They're man-made foods anymore. If you get away from what God made, why are we expecting a immediate healing from something else? But if we get back to what God created and put that in his creation, they are alive to the body. Why are we going chasing after all these other things? And I've spent 20 years just around God-made products, using them to put them into supplement form so we can actually get the real thing.
And that's what I hear is Dr. Ben is saving all of us a lot of time because you've been researching this more than most people have. And you actually have the scientific instruments and skills to actually measure what is the difference. People make lots of claims. There's lots of stuff out there. I do want to get to other technologies, okay, that you're aware of. But this is an amazing thing. But before we leave Phix, I think most people are now convinced it's something that's good for you. You should be on it a few times a day. You should, there's a few steps. It's not very intuitive. When you go to vegaslife.com, you get a membership to get that discount. It's like going to Costco. Then you've got to get your first pack, and then you do the auto ship. So I learned all this, and it's fine for me now, but I think it's complicated for newcomers. Now, the question is, where is Phix made?
Well, it's grown in New Zealand, right? But it's actually processed from planting to processing all the way in the MPG, Marketplace Global, up in Minnesota. That's where they process the whole thing.
It's a company in Minnesota that's owned by a Christian couple.
Correct. Randy and Kathy Nymer.
Yep. Wonderful. I love to support Christian causes. And when you get this, like, you can buy stuff, off the shelf and Amazon and all that, but it's not going to be patented and proprietary like this.
Correct.
And whatever you buy from our affiliate link, it actually supports a ministry. It goes towards the kingdom of God. So that's why we love it. It's a win-win. I had a doctor say this: you can't patent natural substances. That's baloney,
Right.
And I say, well, it's not the substance, it's the process. But I'm not a scientist, so please explain that to the scientist.
It's the extraction process, right? I tell people, like, if you go squeeze an orange, you're going to get orange juice, which is great. But how do you get vitamin C out of that? You have to extract it even out of the juice. So when we look at the flour, the mature hops of flour, and we look at the ability to separate the sides and extract very key specific substances out of it without taking the whole thing, we want just those unique pieces. And that's why this is so powerful in such a small amount of liquid, right? And there's been a lot of different liquids tested. I mean, amounts of the liquid that's been tested from a 0.35 all the way to 1.2 milliliters. And that 1.2 milliliter gives us 3 to 4 times the natural ability for the body to do what it is. And that's the patent, is that it's actually on the extraction process. So you're not destroying the extract as you pull it out. You're getting that very unique key out in its very complete component aspect of what it is. That's what makes that work so well.
And so the patent office actually grants patents on extraction?
Okay, there is a patent pending process that's in here. And the reason they're going to leave it in the pending, so they have to reveal what it is. For you to have the actual patent, you have to say, okay, here's exactly what we did, and we own this. Well, if you just say we filed for it, we've been approved for it, and when I say we, I mean the pharmaceutical company, all right, they have all that patented process that's already been approved. They'll probably never release it because they don't want anybody else to know how they did it. They spend too much money doing it. That's my personal opinion on that.
Okay, so it's on the extraction. Is it also on the stabilization and the concentration?
Which is the same thing. It's not only that, it's the extraction and the stabilization process to make it complete and whole all the way through. Correct.
And my understanding is, as soon as you apply, right, you're first in the queue, you are actually protected. You're patent protected.
Once you apply and it's been accepted and as the approval process, that's my understanding, you are the only one that has it. Correct.
That's awesome. Hey, it took this long just to get to the second biggest innovation that has just been released on July 1st. People have been waiting on this, and I now know why it's needed, but I don't understand how to explain it. So the second innovation is called what again?
Phit, P-H-I-T.
P-H-I-T, okay. So I didn't fully understand because, again, I'm a lean person. I try to be natural. I try to exercise, but I still get fat. The food. Since I've been on the Phix, I noticed the food in America is so bad that since I've been on it, I can't even have, and I hope it's okay to say, I can't have Cheetos, I can't have chips. My body just says, yuck, yuck, yuck.
Right. That's so the processed foods, right?
Yeah. So my body's become even more sensitive, and I think I was to begin with. But I noticed that, okay, I've got this clarity, energy. I've always had good sleep, but a lot of people say they get good sleep. Joint pains are gone, things like that. But I noticed that my weight may not change much after I've burned off the visceral fat.
Correct.
And a lot of people say, okay, I lost 6 kilos. That's like 15 pounds or something. How many pounds did you lose on Phix?
I've lost over 30 pounds.
You've
lost 37 inches off my body, correct?
Yeah, but the main thing with Phix is it changes your body shape.
Correct. Well, I call that the remodeling process because when I did all these different areas and I looked at the hormones that were changing and we could actually watch it, measure the body change and remodel itself, that was the beauty of it, of what was happening to it. The other thing, real quick, is one of the very first things we started noticing when I put patients and clients on the Phix is the hunger went away. It's like they couldn't eat the way they normally eat. See, in our brain, when we go, I'm hungry, and we fill up a plate, we know about how much food has to be on that plate to feel satiated, right? Or full. And all of a sudden, you're having half that amount. Why? For the first time, probably in a long time, Phix is actually breaking down what we call the metabolic rate. It's literally breaking all that food down, and you're getting more fuel and raw material out of that food than you probably have in years or decades for people our ages, right? And so when I looked at that, I'm going, the body is saying, I don't need any more fuel. I have enough to work. And so all of a sudden, people start eating less. Now, that's also an added benefit because you're actually burning things you ate previously. That was stored food. All right, that's what stored fat is. You don't need to keep putting more fuel in if you're burning and cleaning all that up. All right, so now let's go to Phit real quick. When I look at
what is Phit? What is that?
Phit are very unique bioflavonoids. Once again, like the bitter acids, they took the elderberry, they took bilberry, and they took grapes, right? And they didn't want the whole berry. They wanted very unique key components out of it. And I think what's important for people to understand, the drug company, when they were looking at this, they were trying to make a drug, all right, to burn weight. And they did all the research to pull out these very unique components that they were then going to synthesize or make synthetic and turn it into a drug. Because as you said earlier, you can't patent something that's natural. But they knew naturally what worked in the world or in humankind. And if they could make a drug off of that, that's what they were going to do. The beauty of it is when they pulled these out, they were going after a very unique side set of fat. So that's the subcutaneous fat. That's what's under the skin and close around all the muscles. And they thought, well, if we can burn the visceral fat and then burn the subcutaneous fat, the old joke is that's what you see when you get out of the shower and it's jiggly. That's the subcutaneous stored fat. They want to see if they couldn't break that down. And they originally called it the vanity fat, right? Because people want to lose weight to look good, right? And that's why they were trying to put these two combinations together. But what was interesting, Pastor Steve, is that these bioflavonoids are very unique that they go into a very specific set of what's called the electron transport chain. Big word, it just means produce the energy that burns the stored fat under the skin and around the muscles, right? Phix was the master switch that turned on for the visceral fat. And the way I like to describe this to people, when you take the bitter acids, they become one with your body and your body become one with them. They're the God-given ability to turn all the right things on. And you take the bioflavonoids from the Phit, now you put it in water and it becomes one with that water. And that hydrogen I talked about earlier, that is one of the only two things that the body absorbs. Now it turns on the mitochondria. It goes to the energy production center underneath your muscle and your fat, and it converts that stored fuel there to give you that energy. And that's the unique thing about that. So I tell people it fuels the entire system. It's going to hit the whole body. And people take this, go, I feel like I need to get up and move and do something. You don't just sit there. Here's another unique aspect of that. When we did the testing on what's called the resting metabolic rate, we're actually watching the rate of how a normal body burns fuel to stay alive, right? Whether you're asleep, whether you're awake, whether you're walking, whether you're sitting. Most of the time when you're sitting or resting, the body goes into repair mode, right? That's why people that are so tired love to sit down, they just fall asleep, right? Because the body says they're sitting down. Let's get out of now energy. Let's go to repair energy and repair the system. This turns on that transport chain. So now, no matter whether they're sitting, waking, rising, sleeping, working out, it actually is going to keep burning more and more and more. So when you increase that resting energy expenditure rate that we refer to, it actually says, I'm going to take you from, let's just say it's 500 calories an hour, or a day to stay alive, and I'm going to double it. And that's what we're seeing.
Is that you're saying we're going to have more energy? We got Phix giving us a lot of like mental clarity, lower stress. If we add to it Phit, it goes into water. That's what I heard. So you don't want to put Phit into like a milkshake or a coffee, right?
Correct.
Okay. So you get it into water. It interacts with water. We're going to get more energy. Does anybody need coffee after this?
Well, some of us, I'm allergic to coffee and I can still drink it. All right. So it doesn't bother me in that sense. If you look at Phix is going to kind of repair the body's ability to identify what's wrong and give it fuel to do it. Now, all of a sudden, Phit is going to come by and it's going to give you jet fuel. It's going to make things work 10 to 20 times faster and further, right? For example, if I take a patient or a client who has a lot of disease entities, we'll just put that way, right? And they're drugged down or they're slowed down, they're very lethargic in their body. It's going to take me a time frame to get it to turn around. But once I do, I'm going to get quick results or faster results. And that's what Phit's going to come in and do. It's going to speed that process up so I get more information, more data, more energy into the area to make that happen. I mean, people tell me all the time, Dr. Barnes, it's not that I'm jittery at all, but I have a lot of energy and I'm very calm. Wow. How does that work?
So it's not a sugar hit. It's not a caffeine hit. It's natural, better, efficient energy production. Can we say that?
100% natural is what I love about this. Everything's made right from what God made. They just pulled out the unique aspects of it, right, and put it together.
Okay, please help us to be practical. Let's say that I was obese, okay? How much Phix and Phit do I need to work together in unison to get the results that I want?
Here's what I recommend for my patients and clients. I'm going to put the Phix and Phit together first thing in the morning, right? 6-7 hours later, I'm going to take an extra Phix. And then a couple hours later, I'll take a second Phit. If you have those two right there, that's going to do the majority of what your body needs to do. Right?
Got it. Okay, that's what I do. I wake up and I start off with Phix right away. So now you're gonna stagger it on the second time and the third time.
Correct.
That's so helpful. Okay, what if I'm not obese anymore? I'm totally lean. I feel healthy. Do I quit? Can I quit one of them? What do I need to do?
So first thing I'm going to tell people is Phix should just be the number one thing you always do because it's going to have to turn on those switches. It's just like the old saying is, if you have an idiot and you motivate him, you got's a motivated idiot. So if you take this body and you give it everything to turn it on, now it knows what to do. All right, I have people that I put on Phit one every 2 to 3 days. Right, I'll have them mix it up in a half gallon, and they'll just sip 5, 6, 8 ounces on a day. You just kind of go through that because they don't need all that much energy. But we still want that repairability phase to come in there. There's a couple of things we could talk about too on the fulvic acid and the amylin, which are another key piece helping bodies that have trouble.